I said I'd make a video about Greek formations, and I thought I'd just show one of them that I like to use and show it in a battle instead of showing it on... Instead of just showing the formation, because the reason why I didn't do that with the Roman formation and with the Barbarian formation is that you've seen that those formations being used in almost every single competitive multiplayer game I've posted. Now, the Greek factions are not competitive. There are some people who are going to disagree with me, but the Greek factions with normal rules, meaning max 6 of the same unit type, no max on infantry, no max on melee infantry. Under those rules, the Greek factions cannot touch the top factions in the game. However, when you change those rules around, they start to become more viable. But in this battle, I've tried a Hoplite-centric army. So I have Thorax Hoplites, mercenary veterans, Thorax Hoplites, and Thorax Hoplites. So I have 6 Thorax Hoplites and 2 mercenary veteran Hoplites. And the reason why I have the Thorax Hoplites instead of the Thorax swords, it's simple. The Thorax Hoplites are better. When they are in phalanx, they have better damage and they have more armor penetration. The only negative side to them is that they don't have precursors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up very, very wide, 2 ranks deep, and why I do that is going to become apparent once the engagement starts happening. So I have a few supporting units here. I have some supporting mercenary Thracian warriors at key points. I have 3 of those. Then I have a supporting skirmish cav, citizen cav, javelin men, Hippeus lancer general in the center to stop any frontal cav YOLOs. Then I have a few units of javelin men, mercenary Thracian peltasts in the center. So they're going to come up against an Egyptian army here with Egyptian cavalry on the flanks, royal peltasts, Levithareos, Galatian swords, Galatian swords, Galatian swords, Galatian swords, Galatian swords, and more Galatian swords, together with 2 royal peltasts. So my Hoplites are matched up 1-for-1 against units they can beat in most cases, except for the royal peltasts. So I'm going to take special measures against the royal peltasts in particular. These are the units that I need to worry about. There's also some Egyptian infantry speed bumps. There are also some Egyptian pikes, not too worried about them. I think there might be 3 royal peltasts here. 1, 2... There are actually 3 royal peltasts, yeah. So Egypt is not a competitive faction either. Egypt has real issues with their army composition, lacking good mid-tier swords. For one, lacking good mid-tier heavy cavalry. Another... But I'm going to use the javelins here just to deplete the ammo a bit on these Levithareos. I'm going to try to bait out the Egyptian cavalry here, so it isn't used for frontal cav charges. And right now I'm just going to match up my Thorax Hoplites against these enemy units. So smashing in mercenary veteran Hoplites, smashing in with the mercenary veterans, all down the line. I'm accepting the charges. Going into Hoplite wall. My opponent here is doing something smart. He's supporting with Egyptian pikes, running in, dropping down his pikes. Very smart, very smartly done there. So the mercenary veteran Hoplites got the attacked in the rear penalty for some reason. They're losing a lot of men here, but this is where the support comes into play. The Thracian peltasts are firing now into the blob. Let's just pause it here. The reason why things are being done this way is that these very thin lines, I'm going to be losing. I'm losing slightly, but the great morale on the Thorax Hoplites means that they are going to be holding for quite some time, even though they're losing. So they're going to be able to defeat Galatian swords quite handsomely on the charge. And when faced with pikes, they are also going to do a decent job. So Thorax Hoplites are units you can rely on. The mercenary Thracian peltas do a lot of damage really quickly to enemy soldiers. They will do some friendly fire, but once the mercenary veteran hoplites are depleted, the mercenary Thracian peltas are going to infiltrate the unit, and they're going to do a lot of damage. So these two units together are going to do a much better job than they would do on their own. The mercenary Thracian peltas supply the damage, the mercenary veteran hoplites supply the ability to hold. And once again here, going up against royal peltasts, going into phalanx almost immediately, using the javelins in support, and now sending in the mercenary Thracian warriors as second line. They are extremely important allies for the Greek army, getting a lot of kills very quickly, which is something most of the units can't do. So the Thorax Hoplites are starting to lose against the Galatian Sword pike combo, but I am breaking through some places. Over here as well, the Royal Peltas are starting to take a bit of damage, and these guys are still holding. The Mercenary Veteran Hoplites are still holding 65 base morale. The Mercenary Thracian warriors have gotten quite a few kills, so I'm still going to lose there. So I'm going to have to... Here you see the Thorax Hoplites fighting up against Royal Peltas, and the Mercenary Thracian warriors doing very well against the Royal Peltas, doing a lot of damage. So this layered approach is something I really like to do as the Greek factions, and as Athens in particular. You're going to go super wide, take the engagements head on, and then use these unexpected units. Now, once the mercenary Thracian peltas have run out of ammunition, they can charge in and actually do some damage with their swords. They have 35 weapon damage, they have a lot of armor piercing, and you'll see them getting kills in melee. They have a reasonable amount of melee attack as well. So these units in combination are enough to defeat Galatian swords, is enough to defeat the Royal Peltasts. And over here, the Royal Peltasts took a lot of damage from the Thorax Hoplites, but the Thorax Hoplites will of course end up losing that fight. So I can send in my Javelin men to support here, because I'm losing anyway. I'm just going to use them to do as much damage as I can to these Royal Peltasts.
Yes, Commander. Understood.
So the Royal Peltasts have broken over here. The Levy Thraeos break, of course. And amazingly, the Thorax Hoplites in the center are still holding. Look at the kills on the mercenary Thracian peltas. They have gotten a lot of kills in melee. The mercenary Thracians have gotten a lot of high value kills here in melee. And now the mercenary Thracian peltas are being sent in against the Royal Peltasts. So just to sum up here, the strategy is to go very wide, so you're able to infiltrate your own lines and charge through them. And then use skirmishers to soften up key enemy units. Those might be Oathsworn, they might be any type of dangerous elite melee unit. And if you do that, then the units work much better in combination with each other than they do alone. So I'm probably going to do a video as well just looking at other formations, but this is a type of setup that I really like with Athens. But the issue with this formation is, of course, that you can see the kills here on the Thorax Hoplites, reasonable kills on the mercenary veterans and on the mercenary Thracians, reasonable kills on the Thorax. The cavalry is just there for a supporting role, and the mercenary Thracians get a decent amount of kills as well. It needs to be said, and it's fairly obvious, that the threats here were mainly from the Royal Peltas, but these Galatian swords, not really a threat for Thorax Hoplites. If I was fighting something like, let's see, Boii. Let's say I'm fighting something like Boii, and I'm fighting up against followers and axe warriors, Celtic warriors, just your standard stuff of Nightmare Boii army, some Levy Freemen in there as well. Let's say I'm fighting up against something like this. The Levy Freemen are going to block my charges. The sword followers or axe warriors are going to be supporting and causing mayhem. I might even have another sword follower in there. Scratch the Levy Freeman, take out 2 Axe Warriors, bring in 2 more Celtic Warriors, and a Levy Freeman. So if I'm up against something like this with the Greek faction, I just better hope that I'm much better than my opponent, because if I'm not, then I'm basically, the strategy I just showed you goes straight out the window, because you're going to be losing everywhere, and you're going to be losing too quickly to be able to do anything about it. So the type of setup that I showed you there is very situational. It can work against certain factions. When you're up against other weak tier factions, it can work. You can surprise some opponents with how good the Thorax Hoplites are, but against the best factions, just don't go Greek. That's the main thing. Strength and honor.